Alright, today is 12-1 estimating square roots. And square roots, well, first of all, let you go ahead and hit pause and then copy down this information. We'll discuss it further. So go ahead and hit pause. Alright, it says the square root of a perfect square is a whole number. You can estimate the square root of a number that is not a perfect square, and that's what we're going to do today. It's the opposite of squaring a number. For example, 4 squared equals 16. And again, 4 squared is like this, 4 squared. The square root of 16 is 4. So 16, the square root of it is going to be written in this manner, okay, and it is equal to 4. Okay, the square root is the opposite of what squaring is. Okay, the first thing you want to do is you can start by making a list of some perfect squares, and here's a few of them. This is 1 times 1. 4 would be 2 times 2. 9 would be our 3 times 3. 16 is 4 times 4. 25 is 5 times 5. And so on to where you have your 6's. This is 7. This is 8. And this is 9. Okay? So the square root of all of these, this one would be 1. This would be 2. 9 would be 3. 4. 5. And 36 is 6. 49 is 7, 64 is 8, and 9 is 81. And it does go on forever. And the next square root or square that we would have would be not 9 but 10. And the square of 10 again is 10 times 10, which you get 100. Okay? So that's what square root is. What we're going to do is estimate, because not every number is a perfect square. So for example, let's look at this first problem. It says estimate each square root to the nearest whole number. Well, what you were trying to do is basically go back and look at this list. Okay? We were looking at a 78. Well, what does 78 land between? Well, it lands between 64 and 81. So the square of 64, which is 8, and the square root of 9, which is 81. And now it's saying, all right, what is closer? And again, these are the square roots to get this 8 and 9. Where does 78 fall in between these two numbers? What is it closest to? Is 78 closer to 81, or is it closer to 64? And that's just a matter of subtracting and finding the difference. And you'd find that this one is only 3 away. Okay? So, in this case, the best estimation for it would equal 9. Another way of checking this is by simply taking your calculator and finding the square root on your calculator, to where you would hit the second button, and then you hit the squared button, which actually is the square root for the second, and then type in 78. And when you get that, you get 8.83176, and it goes on forever. Okay? Well, what you want to do is not worry about any of these other numbers. Okay? Simply round it. Well, I guess you would have to worry about this because you're going to round to the nearest tenths. So you're going to look at the hundredths, which in this case was a 3, and round this, so it's going to stay 8.8. Okay? So what's it closer to? 9 than it is to the 8. Okay? Anything 5 or larger, it's going to round up to be that larger number. Okay? So the best answer to this would be 9. So there's 2 different ways. You can plug it in a calculator, or you can just use your squares, the ones that you know are perfect squares, like 8 and 9, and how they fall. So you can always go back to this list that you've already made and compare it to those to see what it falls closer between. So go ahead and hit pause and solve this. Alright, so we have 50, and if we go back to our list, okay, we would see that 50 lands between 7, which is 49, and 64. So 49, square root of 49, which is 7, and the square root of 8, which would be 68 times 8 is 64. Okay, some of you will continue want to refer back to all of this information. Okay, so you have 64, and then it's a matter of determining, all right, is 50 closer to 49 or to 64? And in this case, you can see that it's only one away. So my answer to this, the best estimation, is 7. Now if you used your calculator, again, hitting the second button, and then hitting where it says the squared, or you'd see the square root written below. It's usually right next to the 7. And then type in 50. You would get 7.07. Okay? Which rounds this to a 1. So 7.1. And again, is it closer to 7 or to 8? Okay? 7.1. And it would be closer to my 7. Okay, the halfway point obviously is my 7.5. So 7.1 is closer to 7. 7 is my answer. Okay. Now it says to graph each square root on a number line. Well, again, probably the best way of doing this is to just simply use a calculator and type in your square root of 23, which is 4.79. And you're going to round this then to 4 8/10. So draw a number line. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. And start in the middle with a 4. And then go one more with a 5. And then one below it with a 3. Okay, just go on both sides of the whole number. And now it's a matter of placing where the 4.8 would be. Well, the halfway point would be in the middle. That would be 4.5. And since this is a little bit larger than that, it's going to be pretty much the halfway point, which is the 3/4 point, 3/4, halfway between the whole and the half. So we're going to put a dot and then graph that as 23 with the square root. Okay, so right here is what it would match up to be. Okay, let's do the next one. I'm going to let you go ahead and hit pause and then solve this. Alright, so you're going to take 309 and the square root of that, and you're going to see that you get 17.57. And you're going to round that to 17 6/10 because the 7 is a 5 or larger, making this go up 1. So now you can again draw your number line. In the middle, write your whole number 17, go 1 larger, 18, go 1 less, 16. And now find where the 17.6 is. And since 17.5 is in the middle, between 17 and 18, it's going to be just a little bit larger. So we're going to put a dot, and you're going to write 309 with the square root above it. Okay? That is what you need to do for graphing. If you have any questions, again, please write them down. It's a fairly simple lesson, but there are obviously some things that can raise questions. So if you do have questions, make certain that you ask. Have a great evening.